I'd made it very clear that I wanted to be a musician for the rest of my life. I was obsessed with music and I only wanted to do music as a profession, as a hobby, as everything. Because music is really powerful. Every religion has got music, every nation has got a national anthem because music has got that power of bringing people together and communicating messages and ideas. The more I learn about music and instruments, I feel the lesser I know. It's very fascinating to see how these languages can come together and showcase music as being an absolutely universal language.
I am so excited for today's guest. He's an Indian music composer, environmentalist, 3-time Grammy winner, 4-time Grammy nominee. He's performed at the UN in New York and Geneva. He was announced as the UN's Goodwill Ambassador, 2020's GQ Hero of the Year, 2023's GQ Man of the Year, 2025's GQ Hero of the Year, and all for humanitarian efforts. Please welcome Ricky Cage. Hi, Ricky.
Hey.
So nice of you to stay up half the night just to meet up with us. You're all the way over there in India, and we're here in Southern California. And you look bright. You look more awake than I do. How did you do that?
I'm used to this. I'm used to working multiple time zones, so absolutely no issues doing this. And I'm very glad to be chatting with you right now.
Well, I'm so excited to hear your story and get the insights of life. I love your humanitarian efforts, and I love that you get to use what you love and what your passion is to make a difference for people. So my big question for you is, how do you do everything that you do? Like, what do you have, like a go-to phrase, a mantra? Do you have something you learned as a child that has been, that has been the pinnacle of why you're here? It's been your watchword?
Oh, nothing that fancy or nothing that deep. It's just that, my whole life I've been obsessed with music and the environment. I've always been two things, an environmentalist and a musician. So every single thing that I do in my life has to be about one of these two things. But I look at these two things as being one and the same. Because at the end of the day, how did music start? Music started off as, sounds of nature and sounds of the animals, sounds of the birds. And later on, of course, we human beings started imitating those sounds and trying to make it more pleasing for the human ear. And then we started taking objects from nature and creating musical instruments out of them. And it's only for the last few hundred years that music has actually become academic with notes and scales and rags and things like that. So for me, music and nature has always been one and the same, and that's always been my focus. And so for me, my meditation, my mantra, whatever you mentioned, has always been music, and I'm extremely focused on that. So whatever humanitarian efforts that I do, whatever I do, has to be about these two things.
That's amazing. I feel like you have some kind of secret that many people don't have. And I hope that we can uncover something. I mean, there's got to be something in there that keeps you driving and opening doors that haven't been opened before. And is it your creative mind, or just that you love music and the environment so much that it just opens doors for you? That it just...
No, there's a lot of hard work. Yeah, there's a lot of hard work involved in it because, especially since my music is always about a message, whether it is about the environment or social impact around the environment, because everything is interrelated. Uh, you know, uh, you need to have support from a lot of people, and you need to sometimes talk sense into a lot of people, and sometimes you need to inspire people into action. So I look at meeting people or trying to spread my message further and wider as being a part of the creative process itself of making the music. So I look at because everything is about creativity at the end of the day, not just the music making process, but also the dissemination process of the music or performing that music live to a large audience. I think all of that is part of the same creative process because I've always believed that if you love the music that you put out, it's very easy for you to speak about it. And it's also very easy for you to present it to people, whether it's in the form of a concert or whether it's in the form of playing back your music to somebody else. It just feels good to play back a piece of something that you've created and absolutely proud of. And in my case, I never put out anything that I'm not proud of.
I don't know if you see me smiling big here, but you just filled me with such joy to know that you're using that one word, creativity, for everything.
Yeah.
It goes into everything. It's just an extension of the music, it's an extension of your heart, it's an extension of your love. I love that. It's simple. We need simple things in life with so many complexities.
Absolutely.
So, how do you get people to listen to you, get people to listen to your music, your message, to open doors for you? Is that, oh, well, you said you use your creativity. So you think outside of the box, right? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, because my music is not mainstream music. It's sort of like slightly off mainstream because it's fusion music. It's got traditional musical forms from around the world, sort of fused together. Like for example, a song may have a sitar and a Western orchestra, or maybe all of that mixed with an African Zulu choir, or a Vietnamese danbao, or a Argentinian charango. So I love working with traditional instrumentalists and traditional forms of music fused together because it's very fascinating to see how these languages can come together and showcase music as being an absolutely universal language. So I've always believed that if somebody is a mainstream artist, then the way that they would make music is in a very one size fits all approach, where we have to figure out what the current trends are, and and create music based on that, based on what kind of music is trending, and and try to reach out to a very large audience across demographics, across ages, across language barriers, and try to reach out to millions and millions of people. And whereas if you're creating a niche genre of music like what I'm doing, then I would create music like how I do, where I create music specifically for me, the music that I absolutely love and music that I'm proud of. But then the struggle starts after that of trying to find an audience that agrees with you and an audience that would like to listen to that music that you've created for yourself. So that is where the creativity, I believe, comes in handy, because then we have to figure out creative ways of finding that audience and creative ways of disseminating your music to that audience. It could be through, as I mentioned, live concerts. It could be through social media, finding that subset of people that would love your music and would actually spread that music and its message further and wider. So yeah, so that's what. So my kind of music is the latter kind of music, and so for me, the music making process is absolutely sacrosanct. Where the process of making music is all about what I love and what I want to put out there, and what I would like to convey to my audiences. So that is completely sacrosanct. It's incorruptible, and it's not based on any kind of current trends, or based on what I feel an audience would like to listen to. But then after I finish making that music, then, as they say, I put on the marketing hat. And then after that, it's about, like, trying to figure out, okay, who would like to listen to this music, and how do I spread this music further and wider, and how do I get as many people as possible to listen to this music?
Wow, you are just filling me up with so much joy about how you're speaking of your songs, that you make them for yourself, and that it's your opinion that counts. And that's the foundation of everything, because you're going to have to sell it. And you want to believe in every ounce of it, every note, every instrument, everything that you put into it. You want to have that belief so that you can sell it. That is the roots of your success, I believe.
Oh, thank you.
I've been in the music business for a long time, and I don't know any. I read that you have over 3,500 cuts in TV shows, commercials. I don't think I have any friends that can say that.
Yeah, so when I started off my musical career, I started doing commercials for television and radio. And in a span of about 13 or 14 years that I actually did this, I did more than 3,500 placements. So I was a very busy guy during that time. I was as you would call, a studio rat. I would spend all my time in the studio, and I've worked with pretty much every brand that you can imagine and their competitor. Like you can Pepsi and Coca-Cola, McDonald's and Burger King, and Levi's and Lee, and Suzuki and Toyota. You name the brand and their competitor anywhere in the world, I was making music for them. And my schedule was quite hectic. I would wake up in the morning at about 7:30 a.m., and then I would get a brief from a client in India, and I would finish off that brief. I would wrap it up by about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I would deliver the piece of music. And then at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I would get a brief from a client in Europe, usually in Germany or France, because that's when they would be waking up in the morning. And I would wrap that up by about 9 p.m. India time. And then 9 p.m. India time is when Los Angeles starts waking up. And then I would get a brief from a client over there, wrap that up by about 2 o'clock, sleep for about 4 or 5 hours, repeat the cycle. And I was doing that every day. And yeah, and I did that for, as I said, for many years. And then at the end of about 13 or 14 years, it sort of struck me that these big brands have understood the power of music so much so that they're ready to spend like a few $1,000s on me to create a piece of music for them to sell something, because they're always trying to sell something. And not only that, they're ready to spend a few $1 million to actually air that music on television and radio. So they've understood that music is such a powerful language, not just for communicating a message, but for retaining that message deep in the consciousness of the listeners. Because music is really powerful, because every religion has got music. Every nation has got a national anthem, because music has got that power of disseminating a message, and not only that, but also of bringing people together, and communicating messages and ideas. So that's when I felt that I need to stop all forms of commercial music, because I feel strongly about things. I feel strongly about climate change, about pollution, about species extinction, about deforestation, about various social issues. And so I decided that it's time for me to harness the power of music the way that these big brands do, and communicate the messages that I feel strongly about with my audiences. And that's what started off a new journey of mine.
So, did you just close one door and then open the other all of a sudden?
That's exactly what happened. I did it all of a sudden. I just decided that I'm just going to put an end to this, because I believe that transitioning out usually never works, because you end up transitioning too slowly. So I just decided that I'm going to stop, and I just stopped, and I decided that every piece of music that I'm going to make is going to be about something that I feel strongly about, rather than something that is briefed to me by somebody else, based on somebody else's sensibilities.
Wow, that's very brave. That's very.
It was,
So,
yeah.
your income
And I'm glad it
stream
worked out.
just, you closed the door on that and your income stream.
Yeah,
So, you took
absolutely.
a risk, but you believed in yourself. And the thing is that you learned how to write on the gun, like just boom, boom, boom. You
Yeah.
had to every day write like that. And your craft was probably really honed. And then you got to use that for yourself and for your
No,
own
exactly.
message.
That what he said is absolutely true, because I love the time that I was creating these commercials for television and radio, simply because every day was a new challenge. Like for example, yesterday I would have made a Celtic commercial, and today I would get to make a heavy metal commercial, and tomorrow would be a hip hop commercial. So I learned how to think on my toes, and create these pieces of music quickly. And I always liken it to, like, going to a gym for a workout, because the more you work out, the better you get at it. And so I believe it's the same with composition, that the more you compose, the better you get at it, the easier it comes to you, creating these melodies, and also working with musicians. Because if I get a brief at about, let's say, about 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and I need to deliver it by 2 o'clock, then I don't have the time to actually compose the piece of music before I actually book the musicians. So I already know the genre of music, and I know I have a rough idea about what I'm going to be composing and what I'm going to be arranging. So the first thing I would do is that before I would get into any kind of composition or arrangement, I would actually call up the musicians, and I would tell them that be ready to come to the studio by about 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll have a composition ready by then, and then I would compose the music, the and I would create mock-ups on the computer of the entire piece of music. And the musicians would come in, and they would replace those mock-ups with their real instruments. And yeah, and then basically at about in about an hour we would call the client into the studio and make them listen to it, and so that's how it was. So as you said, one has to learn how to think on their toes, and also and also have pretty much every genre of music on your fingertips, and also understand what kind of musicians you would call for which kind of a genre of music, and have these good relationships with these musicians so that they deliver quickly, and they know what you're thinking. So it was quite an experience, and all of those influences found their way into my music currently.
I was wondering about that. That was my next question. So, because you were writing for commercials all over the world, then you met people all over the world and you started to grow an interest of instruments from all over the world and different ways of writing and communicating, and that makes up the tapestry of your music. You really are world music. I see why you
Exactly.
won 3 Grammys and were nominated for 4, because you understand the world's music.
No, so that's what. So during the time when I was making commercials, of course, thank you so much for the kind words. And but while I was making music for commercials, I developed these relationships with artists. And after that, the post commercial world of mine, when I started touring, there again, like I would do, like, let's say, a music festival in Finland, and I would end up watching a couple of the bands perform, before me, before I would take the stage, and I would see all of these traditional instrumentalists and traditional musicians, and I would end up meeting them and talking to them, and then when I am writing my own music, I would start imagining those instruments while I'm actually writing and I'm arranging the music, and then I would call them up and tell them that, I've got this idea and I believe that, you and your instrument would be absolutely perfect for it. And I would send them the piece of music and ask them to record it. Or sometimes I would travel and I would, actually sit with them in the studio while I'm recording it. So, yeah, so both during the time when I was making commercials, I would meet all of these musicians and get influenced by their style of music, and even the post world also. And also when I traveled to countries, like, for example, last year, we did about 70 concerts in about over 30 countries. So the thing is that when I travel to these countries, I usually never, if I have a day free, I never go to the tourist sites. I always open up my phone and Google what concerts are happening close to me, and then I go and actually watch these concerts, usually at the smaller venues, and I meet these musicians, and I make long-lasting friendships with them, and then again, like, I end up collaborating with them. Like, for example, my last album, which I made on the ideals of peace and tolerance by Gandhi. That particular album, Gandhi Mantras of Compassion, that has over 200 musicians from 40 countries. And it's all because I'm blessed to actually, meet these musicians and learn from them, and collaborate with them, and be influenced by their style of music and their thought processes. And yeah, and that's how I got to make that album.
So, you start from your love for music and you make your songs out of love that you have for every ounce of that song, every little piece of it. And that takes you to wherever you need to go. And your love for that creativity and your love for the world, when you're out traveling, you never forget that. You're like a sponge. You're going into those communities and those countries, and you are observing and logging for the foundation of you. You are building on your foundation every day. It's very methodical in a way. It's very focused and fixed and ready to go at any time. And in the meantime, you are expanding your base of musicians, of ideas of musicality, of who can go together, what your next songs can be like, how they can best express all the experiences you've had. That is the most beautiful thing. You took your foundation and you just keep building on it. It is so exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Because being a musician, I've always felt that we have to be a constant student our entire life. We have to constantly be learning. Because the minute we feel that, that we know everything, or this is enough. Whatever knowledge I have is enough, and and I can carry on my career with the knowledge that I currently have. That is where one will completely stagnate. And in an ever-changing world, and in a world where there are more and more musicians showing up, and the younger musicians are absolutely brilliant that are getting into the scene. It's very dangerous for us to stagnate, and we just cannot do that. And so I believe in constantly learning, because I felt, at least in my life, that the more I learn about music and instruments, I feel the lesser I know. So the more I learn, I feel that the lesser knowledge I have. So that's the way it is.
I understand that. It's nice to feel like you know everything because then you're in this secure little box, but you're also in a box.
Yes.
And I believe living in the question is much more secure, which if you're looking for security, because then we can find out what's going on around us. We can get in the habit of asking questions and we can become more than what we started with. And I love again what you started with. Wow.
Well, thank you so much.
That's amazing. I'm wondering also, I know that your father is a medical doctor
Correct.
and that you studied to become a medical doctor. Did you end up doing your residency and
Uh, so
all that
So how it
entails?
works in India is that it's in our 12th grade that we have to make a decision as to what we want to do for the rest of our lives. So I'd made it very clear that I wanted to be a musician for the rest of my life, because I was obsessed with music and I only wanted to do music as a profession, as a hobby, as everything. But my father, he had not articulated it in his head that, that music could actually be a profession. He always thought that, that I'm going to continue doing music because he liked my music. He felt that I was, at least in his mind, he felt that I was talented. But he always felt that I would do music as a hobby and not as a profession. And when I told him and I indicated to him that I wanted to make music a profession, he was furious. And so we had to reach a compromise, or rather, a sort of like a deal, that I would finish off a degree in dental surgery, that is a DDS degree. And if I got that degree, then he would never question me again for the rest of my life on any life decision that I ever made. So that's exactly what I did. I went to 5 years of college, and in India, it's 5 years of college, and one of those years is what we call an internship, where you actually have to go to the hospital and you have to treat patients and things like that. So I did all of that in order to get the degree. And at the end of 5 years, I got the degree, and I very ceremoniously went to my father and I gave him the degree. And I told him that, no, dentistry is a very noble profession, but it's not for me. I want to be a musician. And he understood that. And he kept to his word. He has never questioned me again for any decision that I've made in my life. And as they say, there was no looking back after that.
Yes. And how does he feel about where you are?
Of course, he's proud because the thing is that even while I was doing my dental education, my musical career had already started by then. I'd already started my work in doing commercials. I would go to college from about 9 to 5, and then from about 6 o'clock in the evening, I would be in a studio recording. And by the time I was in my third year of dentistry, I already had enough money to. I'd already accumulated enough money to actually make my own studio. So that was when I built my first studio when I was in my third year of my degree. And by the time I was in my internship, I was already very successful doing music. So my father understood by then that I could make a profession out of music, and I could make a living out of music. But he just wanted me to complete the degree. So I did what he asked me to do. I completed the degree. And yeah, and then there was no questioning because he knew that, okay, by then he understood that, that music can be a valid profession.
And you were so disciplined about it. You didn't
Yeah, I
stop.
mean, I try to be as disciplined about it. And I've always had this very strong value in my life that if I start something, I will finish it. So many times I start a project, like, for example, I start a project and, in halfway, I start getting doubts about the project, that maybe it might not work, or maybe this is not, the end result might not be that good. But even then, I find it within myself to complete the project and complete it right up to the time that I feel it is good enough to be released or good enough to showcase people. Simply because I believe that incomplete work or leaving projects incomplete can actually become a habit, and that's not a habit that I want to get into. So that's why I ensure that if I start something, I will see it to its logical conclusion.
That's a really good tip right there.
Yeah.
So you've been doing that since you were very young.
Yeah, since I was
That's
very
been
young.
part
That
of
was
you.
something that, yeah, that's sort of like a value that I've always had in my life that if you start something, finish it. That's it.
Did you get that from your parents, or was that just part of you?
No, that was part of me because I would see a lot of people, especially when it comes to the creative world, that people have too many, balls up in the air,
Yes.
like, and juggling too many balls up in the air and not, not catching them or missing them or whatever, as they say in the metaphor. And also, I would see that, especially with this, with the when digital technology started, when it comes to recording music, people would have hard drives and hard drives of incomplete work and
Mm.
and work that they've started off and they decided that that it's not good enough to complete, or things that they feel that, all right, these are my passion projects, but right now I'm doing projects that bring me money, and all of these passion projects are just like lying down on a hard drive, like waiting to be completed for years and years. So I decided that whether it's a passion project or whatever, if I start something, I just have to finish it off.
I love that. That's a really good tip. So I have a question. Let's say somebody's listening to this and they say, I wasn't born with the drive that Ricky has. I wasn't born with knowing what I wanted to do, but I want to do something with my life. Would you have any advice for them of what they could find in their life to create their own passion? Because I personally believe that everybody is important, everyone's life is valuable, and that we all can do something to make a difference in our world. We don't have to be Ricky Cage and, set the world on fire. Because some of us are the face and some of us are the little toe. you know, they're a cell in the little toe, but that's necessary too. It's all necessary on this planet. And I'm not trying to belittle the little toe. I feel like the little toe a lot of times, but you know what I'm saying? We're not always the face of a thing. Sometimes we're the shoulder, we're the muscle, we're there are people, I'm sure, in your life behind the scenes that nobody knows their name, but they're helping you and they're assisting you and they're valuable to you becoming who you are.
I think all of this boils down to a question of priorities, I think that's the most important thing. Like, I'll give you an example of my brother. My brother, he's 1 year older than me, and he's a dentist in Manhattan. So he decided, after he finished his dental education, after he finished his DDS degree in India, he decided to move to Manhattan. And so he's been there ever since then. He's married. He works in the clinic from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening. He refuses to work even for a minute beyond 5 o'clock in the evening. So he comes back home. He relaxes for a bit. Then he goes to the gym. He spends some time in the sauna, and and then he hangs out with his wife, and and they watch a movie or something like that, and then they go out for dinner or they have dinner at home, and then he goes to sleep, repeats the cycle, and he's really happy about that. He's extremely happy doing what he does, and for me, it's very difficult for me to imagine somebody being completely free and not doing any work after 5 o'clock. It's very difficult for me to imagine that because I'm living, breathing my profession. I do not have any such thing as work-life balance because for me, my life is just one mesh. I do not have a personal life and a professional life. Everything is personal to me. My everything about music is extremely personal to me. I've been a professional musician for the last 26 years, and I have not taken a single holiday in my life. Of course, I travel a lot on work, but I've never taken a holiday in my life because I wouldn't know what to do on a holiday. A lot of people tell me that, why don't you just go to the Maldives, or why don't you go to, Greece or one of these tourist destinations, and and just recharge for about 4 or 5 days. And my question to them is that, what would I do during those 4 days? I'll probably travel with my studio and my laptop, and I'll probably make music over there. So I can may as well do that in my studio over here, where I have all the equipment and I have the infrastructure to do it. And plus, like, I travel so much for concerts. I cannot imagine myself traveling again to take a holiday, and packing up my bag and going through all of the airport security nightmares and things like that. So, so yeah, so I think it's a question of priorities because for me, everything is about my music, and that is absolutely first. And I'm not ashamed to say this, but that even comes before like having a potential family life or anything like that. For me, because that is my first love, and I'm not ashamed to say that, like that I'm obsessed with music and I'm obsessed with what I do, and I really love what I do because I cannot imagine myself doing anything else. But then again, if you look at my brother, like during the most stressful times, during my musical career, I sometimes wonder that maybe what he's doing is the correct way to lead your life. So because like he does not have anything to do after 5 o'clock in the evening, and he's completely free, and he just goes to the gym or he goes to a movie theater or he's sitting down at home and relaxing. But then I realized that I'm not built for that at all. So it's a question of priorities at the end of the day. I'm built for excitement, that's what I'm built for.
So you have to kind of look within and find out who you are and focus on that, is what you're saying.
Completely. One
Yeah.
has to do that. Like what is your priority? Is your priority have leading a beautiful family life, nurturing a family, taking care of your children and things like that. For me, I decided when I was very young, when I was about, I think, 18 years old, that's when I decided that I'm never going to have children because that's just not me. I love hanging around with my friends' children, and I love hanging out with some of my friends even have grandchildren. I love hanging out with them, but that's not something that I would like to have of my own. And so that's basically because everybody is different. As you correctly mentioned, every human being is built completely differently. So one has to look at what your own priorities are in life, and and follow those passions in a very unapologetic manner.
I love that. That's perfect. Oh, so many good little nuggets here in this little half hour of conversation. I I want to know if there's any way that people can get involved in what you're doing, your humanitarian efforts. If there's a way that they can, I would like to offer that to them because there might be somebody who really resonates with what you're doing.
So I'll give you a brief overview like of what all I'm doing, and then based on that, people can make a decision as to what they would like to help in. So as you know, I'm a global goodwill ambassador with the United Nations, and there are various agencies of the United Nations and various verticals that I work with. So one of them being United Nations Environment. So with them, I work on climate change related activities. Then I work with the UNCCD, that is the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. So that's a beautiful organization which talks about restoration of land because land has got the highest carbon capturing capacity. So basically, fertile land is the cheapest way to mitigate the effects of climate change. And also, land provides livelihood to almost one third of the population of the world, either through farming or whatever other methodologies. And there is and land also for various reasons land is also an equalizer when it comes to gender equality issues and gender violence issues. I can get further into that, but that's something that your audience can read about. The second agency that I work with is the World Health Organization. So I work with them on something known as the Make Listening Safe initiative. Now, that's a beautiful initiative where they figured out that 1.1 billion young people are at a risk of hearing loss simply by the way they listen to music. It could be through hearing devices, earphones, it could be concert venues, it could be at restaurants or wherever. But because of recreational sounds, they are at a risk of hearing loss. So, what we do is that we come up with recommendations for governments all over the world to follow, whether it is about listening devices like phones or headphones and video games and so on and so forth, or it could be about sound installation when it comes to venues or theaters and so on and so forth. So that's the Make Listening Safe initiative, and the Make Listening Safe initiative is not against listening to music, but it's the exact opposite. It's to ensure that everybody listens to music in the most healthiest fashion for the longest period of time.
For the rest of their
And
lives. Yeah.
then the third one is UNICEF. I work with children's rights, because children's rights and education for children, especially when it comes to sustainability. The next organization is the UNHCR, that is the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. I work with refugees all over the world, especially refugees who have been forced to leave their country because they are musicians or because of the music that they create. So, yeah, so these are the various agencies of the United Nations that I work with. So, anybody would like to volunteer or help in any of these verticals, they can get in touch with me on my website. That is rickykej.com, RICKYKEJ.com.
That sounds wonderful. I could talk to you for hours and learn from you. But I so appreciate your time and that you stayed up so late. I know you're a busy guy and you're so focused, and I appreciate you giving our listeners your time. And the lessons that you offered us are simple. Oh, I lost my earpiece. They're simple and they're easy to understand, and I love simple because we need more simple. So thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
You're not
And it's
simple, but
been,
you're living by finish what you start,
yeah.
and what you start from is your passion, and you make sure that you love every aspect of your passion, and then you use creativity after that to sell it, and then you offer ways to help people through music, with your music, and with your original foundation, and you get involved in making the world a better place.
Thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate that. And of course, it's been fun talking to you and always great to chat with you.
Yes, thank you so much, Ricky Cage. That's
Thank you.
Ricky, RICKYKEJ.com. Thank you so
That's
much.
right. Thank you. Thank you so much. All my very best.
All right. Take a nap.
Okay, I'll do that right away. Thank you. Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye.